Hi, welcome to another episode of the Holistic Pharmacy Podcast. I am so excited to bring to you today Rajinder Rai, and she is a functional medicine pharmacist who specializes in women's health. So welcome, Rajinder.
Hi, Marina. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I know you were featured recently in the PharmaSis magazine, so congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was really nice sharing my personal story of how I've gotten to this point and fell into functional medicine and with my own personal health and my daughter's health. So it was nice to be featured.
Yeah, well, I hope you'll share some of that story with us today. So, first of all, can you start off with where you grew up and how you came to the pharmacy field?
Sure. So I grew up in Northern California. I my dad's had a history of chronic heart condition, so I've been very familiar with going to the pharmacy with him and from a young age and always having that trust with the pharmacist. But to be honest, I wasn't thinking of a career in pharmacy. But when I went to University of the Pacific, I fell into pharmacy because the school has a school of pharmacy as well. And it's just something that I haven't looked back on. I appreciated the ability to work directly with patients. And I think from the beginning, I always knew that I wanted to work in the community. So I have that direct access to patients. And that's something that I had appreciated. The community pharmacist that my dad worked with, how he impacted, his health and always was there to help him. And I think it's kind of like paying it forward now for myself that I'm able to do the same thing with our community.
Awesome. That's so great. So, how did you set your heart on the pharmacy major while in school? And then, what were your favorite parts of the education process?
I think it was just a matter, I've always liked science. So I've always, when you're in all the science classes, I think pre-health, all of your classes, prerequisites are the same. So whatever your final destination is. So I think I just, with all of the fellow students that I had, our classmates, we all just kind of, gravitated together and they all happened to be pharmacy majors as well. And I switched from going into dentistry to going into pharmacy. Because again, it was, having that access to patients that I really liked, and then still having the science background. And then, and at that time, it was, community was where I wanted to be. So it made sense for me at the time. And, when you're in school, you have these really big ideas of how you're going to change the practice and so forth. But, when I first came in, I worked in like a retail setting, and then I was able to go on and have our own pharmacies, which I think it's allowed me to kind of have the, create the vision that I want for myself as a pharmacist.
So, what kind of configuration was the pharmacy profession? Was it a PharmD degree with a 2 to 6, like 2 year pre-pharm and then 4 years pharmacy, or was it a 0 through 6? How did that work?
Yeah, so it's actually a pre-pharm, PharmD, direct, where I didn't have to do an undergrad. So it was 2 and 3, but because then I switched majors, I had an extra year, so it took me, the 6 years to do. But I didn't have to get the undergrad and PCAT. I have students that come in that do rotations with us, and it's amazing that now they have to do 4 years of school and then, of undergrad, and then a PCAT, and then get into pharmacy school, and then residencies, and then fellowships. So it's a lot that the students have to do nowadays. So I'm grateful that I didn't have to stay in school that long.
Yeah, everything is changing. And I guess the more medicine advances and there's more medications to know about, that extends our learning experience. So can you go back, and you mentioned that you were able to open your own pharmacy business, is that right?
Yes. So we like a few years after working, my husband's also a pharmacist, so that kind of, has that advantage and disadvantage. That's another conversation. But so we had decided to open our own pharmacy, started with an existing pharmacy. So we didn't start it from scratch, but it gave us the autonomy to kind of have your own practice. And you were working long hours anyway, so all of the hours now kind of went for your own business versus working for somebody. And we also, you just develop these relationships because it's one-on-one directly with the patients, and you're able to provide the services without the corporate red tape. Everything within the scope of, the practice and the laws, but at least you don't have, you know, so many other people that you have to go through before you can make a decision directly that involves the patient care. And so I think that's what I've been lucky to have, that whether it's adding different services like compounding, weight loss management that we've had from the beginning, to having supplements. Our original pharmacy was in Santa Barbara, so we did have like a homeopathic doctor, very close to us, so we carried homeopathic medications as well. So I think even from the early set of my career, I've had alternative, you know, therapy that it's never been that one size fits all.
Absolutely. So can you walk us through graduation and then when you met your husband and when you decided to open a business?
Yeah. So actually, I met my husband the last year of, I guess it was, or yeah, my rotation. So right before graduation. And so we got married in the year before about a month before I graduated. So I was already married by the time I had walked, getting
Wow.
graduated. And then yeah, so it was a lot that last few months. But then I moved to Southern California, took my California board exam. And back then it was not the NAPLEX. So that was one of the harder board exams to take. And it was, the paper exam where you had two proctors sitting in front of you, literally watching you take the exam. So it was, I think it was a 2 or 3 day test. I can't remember now, but it was pretty intense. But that was nice to get that, taken care of. And I was already working for Long's Pharmacy, which was a local retail pharmacy, as an intern. So then I just, once I got my license, I became, a pharmacist and continue to work for them until we opened up our own pharmacy, which, my husband's the one that's always wanted to have his own. He actually has moved here from England.
Wow.
So yeah, so he's here. And so that he came here with that intent to have his own business. And so I think that was, the drive to kind of um, start right away and have our own pharmacy. And then it just grew from there. So we ended up with, started in Santa Barbara, and, we live in Ventura County. And so we were up to 4 uh, pharmacies.
Wow. Amazing.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So, can you talk to us a little bit more then about how you got involved into more the functional medicine side as you were practicing?
Yeah, so like I was saying, even from the beginning of, having our own pharmacies, we've always had alternative treatments or therapy available for our patients, from the compounding. And even when just, I think naturally for myself, I've never, when people would come in, even for recommendations, you always would ask them other questions to kind of probe into why they were coming in, to, even for allergies or whether it was for pain, anything like that. So I think naturally I've always been inclined to make sure that there was other things going on before just giving, the medication out and so forth. But On a personal note, I about 10 years ago, I had my own blood clots that I was walking around with. I had three,
Wow.
two in my lungs, yeah, and one in my aorta. And I didn't know that, I was a busy mom doing everything that you think, you're supposed to do, and running, working full time in the pharmacies, and your own business is like 365, right? You never have really a day off. But I just randomly went to the doctor. You know, just coincidentally, she called me and said, come in, and I was treated, but I never thought about why did that happen. At the time, my concern was I just want to be back at work. I have like a PTA fundraiser to do. I have, my kids need to do this. I wasn't really thinking about myself. So I just, boom, I took care of what the problem was, moved on, and didn't think about it again. And then 5 years ago, my dad passed away after complications from his heart surgery. And even then, it was, you just thought, oh, he had chronic health conditions, and that's why this happened. Didn't ask, I didn't ask why. I just let it be. Um, and then about 2 years ago, my daughter got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that literally brought me to my knees because I just couldn't believe it. She was 18 years old, just started college, and I was ready to be an empty nester because she's my youngest. And next thing we knew, we're in the hospital. She has stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they needed to start chemo right away because of the location of where the tumor was pressing on her trachea. So the breathing, could have been a problem. But so it really was the experience with her where she asked the doctor, why did this happen? And he didn't have an answer for her. He goes, well, we really don't know why this happened, but we have treatments. And for me, and as a pharmacist, as a mom, it just kind of like blew my mind. I was like, I've been giving treatments out, for the last, I don't know, 20 plus years to people, how to take it, what to do, what not to do. But we never really ask, why did you come in here in the first place? And so that just completely changed my thinking to, I'm not doing a full service to my patients or myself or my family. And so that just started my journey into learning about, what can we do now, that my daughter has this, whether it's nutrition, whether could have been the stress, could it have been this? And I started to learn about functional medicine, and that's how I met Melody at Farm to Table. So I kind of, and then the doors just kept opening up. And, I've met other like-minded pharmacists that are going into this field. I mean, when you have your own business, sometimes you're just very closed in your bubble. You don't realize what's going on. And I didn't realize there's this whole other world of practitioners out there. So I've been very blessed that, I keep meeting people that keep opening more doors and opportunities for me. So I think that, I guess my only regret is I wish I would have started sooner, because I think it's a complete mind shift, and it's been beneficial for myself personally, and I think also for the clients that I have currently.
Wow. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm so sorry that your family has gone through all of this heartache and health trouble. And I'm, so grateful that you're coming here and sharing your story with everyone else who could benefit in some way and apply to their own life. So, it takes courage and vulnerability to share your private life. So thank you so much for doing that. And also for, like you said, even though it brought you to your knees, you're still making it a point to apply the lessons that you learned. And even though you learned them the hard way, bring that
Mhm.
into your purpose and your passion and your business, and to change other people's lives. So that's just amazing. Thank you. And then I also want to go back to some of the stuff that happened in your story. So when the doctor called you in and found those clots, I mean, that is a huge coincidence, right? And that's an amazing doctor. She must have just
Uh,
felt it. And then
well, the
how did she,
it's we talk about it. So she's actually
how,
she's a
how
personal friend, and so what happened was we had gone to dinner the night before, and it's just random because her and I are friends, but we don't see each other that often. And so it was coincidence that I went to dinner, and it was coincidence that she was there. And I just was telling her, my arm just feels a little, does my arm look a little swollen? She likes to work out and play tennis, and I usually would work out too. So then, your weight and how you look was really important. um and so she just said, no, well, it could be anything. And we just kind of talked about it. And then for some reason, the next morning, she called me and she insisted that, here's a number to the office, come in, just come in right away. And to this day, she doesn't know what prompted her to do that, because I probably would have just not gone in, because it was like, oh, it's a little swollen, I'll just let it, take its course or something like that. And then the second thing she did was she ordered the ultrasound, which again, um, she there's no reason that I didn't. I wasn't on like birth control pills. I wasn't on anything that would have, um, given her any indication, let's check for a clot. But something, she just decided to order the ultrasound. Um, and they did it for the aorta, and that's where they found the first clot. And then obviously she sent for, had to go do blood work. And then the next day she had a CT scan done, and then that's when they found two more in my lungs. And I guess I'm just really fortunate that I just happened to be at the right time at the right place. Because even the nurses left. They walked, I didn't even have to go through the ER. They walked me in the side door to the ICU room when I had to kind of walk in, and they're just like, we've never had a patient walk into the ICU like you
yeah.
did it. Because it didn't really even hit me until everything, like probably, few years later, that I actually went through this. And I'm I don't know how, it was like a miracle.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I feel like now, looking back at all of these incidences in my life, it's almost, the universe has always been poking at me, to make a shift. And I think that's where my biggest message is, especially to women, is that we don't listen. We're so busy doing and doing and doing, and especially doing for others, that we're not listening to ourselves, our inner voice, even our body, or even nature, the universe, of what's going on around us. And so it took me a while to maybe get on this path that I needed to be on. But I count my blessings, because it's, even in my daughter's case, she was diagnosed within 3 weeks, because of, I feel like I have a guardian angel. So a lot of times you will just write off things like, oh, maybe, it's okay, maybe it's in my head. I'm not really feeling bad. I mean, our we can really like talk ourselves out of anything almost. And that's the difference between, either catching something early or preventative, versus, it getting to a point where you're in a worse state.
Yeah, I mean, it was truly a miracle what your whole story really is. Like, it gave me goosebumps. And I just wonder, it was just a swelling, right? That was the only symptom. And then how the doctor just had that, nudge or hunch that, okay, we should take out the ultrasound. And then right away she finds something. So did you ever find
Right.
out what was a contributing factor for that to happen?
Um, so they, at the time, they said, so I had cardiothoracic surgery. Um, there's a first rib some of us are born with, so it's above your clavicle. So it's
Mm.
supposedly up here, like up here. And
Mhm.
so they took that rib out, which they say the rib is what was pressing on the aorta, and then possibly the clots broke from there and then into my lungs. But now, going through the functional medicine training that I have, I feel like it was probably more of inflammation and the stress that I had at that time that could have caused, you know, you know, things going on. Cause it's not like that. What all of a sudden did I do that caused that rib to move or something, unless there's something else going on. So it's hard to know exactly what it is, but that's basically what they did is, they took the rib out, and then I had to be on anticoagulants or blood thinners for about a year or so to make sure, and then just go in continuously for checkups to
Yeah,
make
I was
sure that it didn't keep coming back.
yeah, I was going to ask. So after 1 year of therapy, you were able to just get off of everything and it never happened
Mhm.
again?
Yeah,
Wow.
no, yeah.
I wonder if environmental pollution and xenoestrogens may have played a role as
I,
well.
I think so. I didn't see again at the time, like even for I appreciate, like, for me, I always use my example as this is when, the acute care when you need it, it's great.
Yes.
It was found, they did the surgery, I mean, I had treatment, and I was back at work, literally. But we didn't step back to did we look at my hormone levels? No. Did we look at, insulin levels? No. And that was, about 10 years ago. So it would have been like 37. That could have been at the beginning, of perimenopause. Who knows what was going on at that time? But that wasn't, it's hard for me to say what exactly could have been going on. But even when you go for your annual, checkups, like even with your gynecologist and so forth, my labs, oh, your labs are normal. So, but that I think is the one misconception as well too, because your labs are normal compared to what, right? Where are you on that range, and what are the symptoms you're having? So I think, again, that is really one of my key missions, is to at least educate and inform women that even though your labs come back normal, you have to go by how you're feeling, and kind of press and make sure the labs that you're getting, the one, that they're the right labs, and two, it's consistent with, whether it was a blood test, a urine test, and saliva test, and when you did it, in
Mm,
your cycle and so forth,
yes,
so that you're comparing the right numbers.
absolutely.
um, so I think, there's a lot of, and again, as pharmacists, we sometimes forget that the knowledge that we have, we not everybody has as well too. So then it's sometimes I think, oh, this information everybody knows, that these are the questions to be asking when you go to the doctor. But I'm finding out that there's a lot of um information that women aren't aware of, or sometimes afraid to ask the questions to their practitioners and so forth. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just in shock that you said that you were 37 10 years ago because you don't look a day over 37. So that's just amazing. And second of all, I
oh,
totally
thank you.
agree. Yeah. Even when we measure blood pressure, the first question that we ask is, what is your normal blood pressure? Because it's going to be specific based on
Mhm.
your normal readings, what's normal for you, even if it's not in the perfect range of 120 over 80 as we want. Your numbers are just going to be in their own perfect range, and that's going to be perfect for you. So like
Right.
mine are always like 20 degrees under that, so
Yeah.
it depends what the units are, and what, like you said, what you just did that day could affect it, your stress levels or whatever. Just like it could affect blood pressure, and we ask, did you have a coffee, did you have, did you walk fast here? So we want to ask all
Mhm.
the questions, and we want to take it at the right time of day and the right time of the cycle, and then compare it to those same numbers that are normal for you and your cycle and whatever
Mhm.
it is that you're measuring. So it's not always going to fit into this
Right.
normal standard range, like
Right.
you were saying. And then I also want to go back to your
Mhm.
daughter's story. So, did they ever find out, or did you, as a family, ever investigate to what could possibly, what was the contributing factors there? And then, how did the
Um,
treatment work for her?
so I think, obviously when you in the immediate, you just want to go get, through the treatment. And so the goal was just, to do the treatment and kind of make sure she's okay that way. But I don't and then, what I found is that this is very common in young adults. So this, the Hodgkin's lymphoma that, it's 20, under 30, most of the cases are. But she, had a really stressful, it's that senior year that most
Mm.
seniors have. They're applying to different colleges, and she's a very, you know, motivated young woman, and has high goals, and so she puts a lot of, pressure on herself to do things. So I think that last year of stress, she did have like irregular periods and heavy periods and so forth before, and so she was like, I had taken her to specialists, and a lot of times, like most young girls or young women, they're put on like the birth control to regulate their period. Obviously there's no conclusive evidence of one thing linking to another, but sometimes, obviously that could have affected her gut health with the stress, and then, could have affected inflammation in her body, so there is possibility of that, leading to this, because it's your immune system that's basically going um, on overload, and so something triggered something which triggered this and so forth. So it's not like all of a sudden it just appears. So we do live in an area where there's farmland and so forth. So it could be the environment, stress, even the nutrition when you're like really busy, if you're not eating, or lack of sleep. It's hard to say, you know. That there's one thing that we could have done, especially, as a mom, it goes through my mind 24/7, like, okay, did I do something here, or did I forget to do this, or was it when I was pregnant, or what, because um I was pregnant when I was working, did I expose her to something from work, or you know but at some point you have to make peace with what's happened, and try to move forward and think about what can you do to stay healthy from that point going forward. And that's also one of my key things that I want the audience to know, is that sometimes you are diagnosed with a certain condition. It could be something chronic like diabetes, and obviously something more severe like cancer, but it's a diagnosis, it's not you, and it doesn't define who you are. And so there's ways of yes, you have to go through the treatment, but then that's your pivot to kind of look and see what can you do to change in your life, to kind of keep it from getting worse, or from you know the trajectory of where the end result isn't a positive one. um, and then obviously the biggest message would be is that don't wait for that, right? You don't have to be reactive and then do something. If we're really starting to look at um, our health and what we're doing in 24 hours, we need to switch our mindset to being more proactive. And I think that oftentimes we think about, oh, my parents didn't have to do that, or my mom didn't go through menopause, or but you know what, that was a different era. The foods that she ate, the environment that she was in, the stress levels is completely different to what we're going through now. So thinking of it that way is not really serving yourself. So you have to think about, there's so many things that are not in our control, but there are a lot of things that we can control at the same time. And if you just focus on those, I think that will help um, to, you on the right trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. That is super key. I agree. And I also want to say that what you were saying before about looking at the whole picture. So just because something happened, and at this point, of course, you're going to be reactive because it happened already. But then hopefully, if
Mhm.
everything offsets and you get the treatment, which we are super lucky to have this advanced medicine and acute care to help in most cases, especially if you catch it early enough. And then afterwards, it gives you the chance to reflect and talk with your provider or investigate yourself or with another professional who really delves into the pathology of things and really figure out what were the contributing factors so that now you can be cognizant of that going forward and make sure you are mitigating those risks for yourself in the future. And like you said, even family history, that is important. And we always ask that of our patients, but epigenetics supersedes that. So it's like,
Mhm.
what are we doing in our life? And what are those things that we do have control over in our environment or in our stress level or in the way we react to stress or anything, just really analyzing like what can we change from these factors to lessen the risk for the future, to make sure that we stay healthy, that we stay, vigilant, and we just improve our quality of health and our quality of life because that's what we're here to do. We're here to enjoy life and not be scared of it or be stressed out about it. It's really, really helpful to take that step back during and make time to take the step back, right? Like what you were saying about how women especially are just doing so much and taking so much on themselves, including burdening themselves with the guilt of something going wrong with the health of their children that,
Mhm.
maybe that they blame themselves for. And we're just having to carry so much and we often just distract ourselves with the doing. And I had another conversation with somebody else about like the feminine and masculine qualities that we take on.
Mhm.
Some people don't like those terms, but the yin and the yang, you could say. And so,
Right.
like when we as women got or are still fighting for in some cases equality to men, it doesn't mean that we have to act exactly like them or have the same exact virtues and pros and cons. It means that we have
Mhm.
equity and being just a fully human being, but it doesn't mean that we should be that we should be taking on each other's like properties and roles, or when more of the masculine and the yang side is more like action oriented, whereas
Mhm.
women are more about holding space, the yin side, and having those slowing down moments to be creative inside a container, which is also like the more masculine yang. So we do need structure, and life as we live in this 3D reality is all about structure, right? But
Mhm.
in that structure, we should be allowed to be a little bit free flowing and create and pause and, really stop and smell the roses, right? And we just like have stopped doing that. And that's why we just take on so much stress and we think like, okay, we just have to keep going and moving through it. And then we have some kind of goals maybe of a vacation once in a while, but that's not enough. We need to make more time, a more priority to decompress and just be
Mhm.
without having to always do or act.
I think, you're absolutely right, and to be honest, I think it was one of the days, or it may have been the night that we were, just went to the hospital with my daughter, and, I think I didn't wanna go eat or something, I don't know, what it was something like that, and then my son was like, Mom, you don't have to be the hero all the time." And at the moment, I was so upset. I was like, "How can he what is he saying? Well, I'm mom, I'm super mom. What is" in my I was really mad that how can, this is my son. How I'm over here, trying to make sure my daughter's okay. What does he mean that? And it took me a while to like really sit with it and understand. And I, for whatever reason, it's given me permission to be, it's okay. I don't need to like be in charge or in control or um sometimes have the answers, or have all the answers, that I'm not gonna, have that and ask for help. Um, because that as women, sometimes we take it as like, I am not capable, or I'm not, a good enough mom, that now I need help, whatever the case may be. Obviously, in my daughter's case, it was something, more extreme with her health, but even with anything, like, and I think that whole notion of the fear of failing is what, like, drives us sometimes to keep doing and not being. And so and it could be that you're trying to prove to yourself, or you're proving to somebody that said something to you back in your childhood. Whatever the case may be, there's something there that I think, if you don't sit with yourself, and really look deep in yourself to see what's going on, and listen to that inner child, almost to really hear those, those issues or concerns, you keep, like you said, you keep piling on things to numb yourself. And I think that's what I was doing. I have no problems, or working long hours, working every day, and still coming home and doing things for the kids, and then doing things, volunteering here for the schools, and soccer mom on the weekends, because it was easier for me to do that and stay busy than to stop and sit with myself and hear my inner thoughts. I think is what it was. And it took, obviously, all of these incidences that happened in my life to get to that point, to really start thinking about where I was and where I was going. And like, I just didn't know myself. And this journey of like learning, obviously professionally, to go into now, like, doing all the courses of functional medicine. Also, just at this simultaneously, on a personal level, I'm growing as well too. So I guess everything happened for a reason at the right time, so that I was ready to receive the information as well too. Because I think that's one of our biggest issues, is that, you know and I think also the reason that maybe sometimes things don't work for people is you have to be ready to receive, whether it's a treatment plan, whether it's advice, or whether it's, you know anything that you're doing. And you're more, and if your mindset is that way, to be open, then all of you're happily taking in that information. And I think that's, this last year has been that transformation for me, because again, as we were going through the treatments with my daughter, I wasn't paying attention to myself. And I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating properly, the guilt, the, being angry. I think more than anything, I think I was angry at myself. I was angry at the world, angry at, God, everything. And so it took a long time for me to first, forgive myself, that, I'm I did the best that I can. And then you start forgiving, others around you, wherever that anger is coming from. And then it just, the other things started to automatically, then you start thinking about, okay, what am I eating? What are the, toxins around me? And then, then you think about, okay, I want to be, I'm out of breath. I need to be more physically fit. So I think it's like a natural progression once you relieve some of the inner weight that you're holding on to. And then the other aspects of your health also start to become more visible to you, and you start listening to your body. And I think that's, what's been key for me. And that's hopefully what I'm going to be able to share with, those that I work with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I see this all as the existential human condition. We have all of our different pathways of our lives and what happens in our lives. And in the end, like, this is all that matters, right? It's an impossible goal, and to realize it's an impossible goal to be perfect, right? Or to like prove your worth to someone or to yourself, and just meet yourself
Mhm.
where you are and accept. Like, the first step, I think, is acceptance of what is, because anger is really
Mhm.
like not acceptance. Anger is like you're so set on something that you want to be true, but you're not seeing that happen in reality. And, you're
Right.
faced with a different reality that you don't like. So you're angry at this incongruence. So the first thing to move forward is really to accept where things are, right? And just be with that, like you said, and just sit with that. Because then if you go
Mhm.
on to distract yourself with doing, it's not really going to be different once your life maybe forces you to stop at some point if you don't stop yourself,
Right.
and you're just on this
Exactly.
hamster wheel. And a lot of
Mhm.
the stuff that we are trying to prove is unconscious or subconscious. It's like, what you were saying maybe when you were little, but you don't even remember it, but your unconscious or subconscious mind does hold on to certain perceptions or
Right.
ideas that you're not even aware of. So I think first step is still to that find that stillness, like you were saying, and acceptance of what is, and then analyzing. And you can bring some of those things to the surface and work with them, either through the mind or
Mhm.
through the body or both. And there's ways to do that. But unless you are willing to go there, you're going to just find, whether it's an unhealthy addiction, like we see a lot of addictions with substance abuse and things
Mhm.
like that, or something that we think is like a healthy, functioning, performing person, but they also are using this as more of like a distraction from what's really their purpose, or
Right.
what are they really here for. And I really just see that as like the forefront of what people are doing and waking up to right now, and just figuring out, okay, well, if I don't like something, once I'm accepting that here it is, it now becomes my power and responsibility to then react to that. So it's not like blind reacting, but it's like having that space to pause. And that's also kind of like the feminine receptive yin energy, to
Right.
just sit with that before reacting. But then your reaction or your action can be really intentional, rather than just automatic, autopilot, and keep on
Right.
going. That you just like constantly reevaluating and pivoting, like you were saying. And if something is
Mhm.
if you like something, you keep going there. If you don't like something, you can change it. And just realizing there is no like static things, and just like going with the flow, and then exerting your power whenever you can. And so that way you can control the stuff that you can control, like you said.
Mhm.
And that's all you can really do. Focus your energy on those things that you can control, and then accepting the other stuff that you cannot control. And I also
Right.
want to point out, like what you were saying, like what was really helpful for you. It sounds like a really huge shift happened where your will to live and to take care of your health was really at the forefront after you accepted and
Mhm.
went through your dark night of the soul. And so that's like the opposite, right? When people are sick, they're the opposite of that. And when people are really thriving, it's like their will to live is just like so abundant. And then they're just doing everything they
Mhm.
can to stay healthy and be vital and be present. And like the other side is like depression and all the other stuff. So
Right.
so I think that's the goal, like to keep on striving for that will to live. Like you want to wake up and you want to follow your mission in the world every day.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think also being, in community pharmacy and having different specialties, we also have um, a big demographics that we help seniors, um, that are in like assisted facilities, which I think also shows me the progression of health as well too. And I, to be honest, that was the trajectory I was on. I was going to go into being board certified as a geriatric pharmacist. So that, that was professionally, that seemed like the right thing to do. And, and although, our pharmacies are there for those patients, but I feel like my personal calling is more to be on the side before those, diseases progress to that point, where then, you're needing assistance and so forth, because you want to have a like healthy life where you can do the things, especially, in our society, we work so hard and we wait till retirement to enjoy life. And so you think you still want to be able to do things and enjoy grandkids and travel, hopefully when everything is clear, and so forth. But not be where then, you retire and then all of a sudden these health issues start coming up, right? It's not, again, like we were talking, the health issues didn't happen that day. They've been happening over a lifetime. And so changing our mindset to being more proactive about, what we're doing on a daily basis, the level of stress that we have in our lives, ways that we can take that time to just be still with our mind and reset. We reset everything else, even our computers need updates, right? But we never do it for our bodies. And so, whatever that may be for you personally, whether it's, tapping into your spirituality, your religion, wherever your strength comes from, whether it's nature, sometimes, community, the sense of belonging, I think that's really important. And I think, again, this last year of having to socially distance has also put, the importance of that interaction, with people, and the socialization and so forth, at the forefront of how important it really is. And so I think we have to really think about what is it, overall, what are we trying to achieve? Even if you're working really hard, what is your ultimate goal? And is it spending time with your family? So then, then you want to like reset your life to make sure that that's on a daily basis, not on a once in a, like, 1 week vacation that you that we normally go to or something like that. So that it's small state changes that become habits, to that you're able to sustain, I think is what's important.
Yeah, I love that idea of, even though you have this grand goal that you're working towards, breaking it up and making sure you're enjoying some of those fruits of your labor more
Right.
frequently, and not just, okay, in 20 years from now, I'll be doing this, but you never know. Like, life is not guaranteed. You really have to take it one step at a time and make sure you're giving yourself that joy, whatever that is,
Mhm.
and scheduling that in literally into your
Right.
schedule. So I'd love to hear about your functional medicine work that you're doing now as part of Farm to Table or in your pharmacies, how you're implementing it, and any kind of pearls of wisdom from that.
Yeah, so on a virtual platform, I'm part of Farm to Table, so I'm able to see clients, virtually, licensed in California. In our pharmacies, we've just again are changing our whole setup of bringing in more things, to help patients with like coming into the pharmacy, not just when they're sick, but hopefully when they want to get educated on how to be healthy. So we've added different supplements, even for our regular, patients coming in with medications, we've added nutrient depletion to make sure that any of their medications that they're taking aren't causing some of the nutrient depletion, and then giving them the options, what to look, symptoms to look for in case they want to do that, to talk to their providers as well too. Having more just like educational classes. I've been holding a lot of webinars. Last fall, I did women's health series from, uh, menopause, perimenopause, all the different hormonal changes, PCOS, to heart health, brain health. And then most recently, I did talk on Let's Talk Eating, versus dieting, because I think there's such a, again, that's a whole nother conversation, but just learning to eat the foods that are right for you, particularly, not what the latest fad says, I think is important. and learning to listen to your body about those foods as well is what's important. Um, so yeah, that's basically where I'm at right now, is hopefully, working with clients one-on-one, and then still, I'm still involved in the pharmacies to kind of integrate, conventional medicine with functional medicine to find that balance for the patients that we have that way.
Wow, that's wonderful. So are these special add-on services that clients can pay for out of pocket in the pharmacy?
Yes. So right now, we're still adding it, phasing it in. With pharmacy, it's always a little different, like adding these services. But definitely, making patients right now, we're at the awareness stage of making patients aware that, the certain medications that they're taking can cause a nutrient depletion. And then when they want a full consultation, then they schedule with me so that they can have a one-on-one conversation to kind of get more and more informed, detailed. Our pharmacists are kind of getting trained, but they're not doing one-on-one separately right now.
Okay, that's awesome. So yeah, I think a lot of the basics can be extrapolated and, like you said, educated on a general level. But then you definitely want to have the individual approach on top of that too, to see what each person is needing.
Yeah. I think also what I've found is of the clients that I've worked with, and some of the clients actually are very open to going to alternative practitioners, and sometimes they're going to so many, they're getting so much information that I think I found that you also need somebody to decipher all of this information with, and I think that functional pharmacists are really key to helping, because we have the background with conventional pharmacy and all of the medications and biochemistry, and then if you're trained in functional medicine, you have that background as well. So we're a great resource for people really trying to make good decisions on what treatment plans you want to do, because it can be overwhelming. um, Even if you're already seeing a holistic practitioner, do this test, do that test, add these supplements, or eliminate this. And I think people just need a streamlined approach, and really somebody to kind of like help them step back and look at it from the whole picture, instead of just that immediate need.
I found the same thing with my clients, that I'm kind of like that gatekeeper that's
Mhm.
figuring out, all right, like how to streamline all of this advice and this work that you're doing with other people and cut out, what's not necessary or redundant. And then, keeping just like the basics and the most essential things, because like you said, it can get overwhelming with the amount of time you're just going to different places, and also
Right.
like the money that you're paying them, and then the money that you're spending on tests and supplements. So it's like you just really want to put it down to a bare minimum and then see what's working, because then you also won't know what's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to thank you so much for your time and coming on and really sharing your personal story and professional journey with us. Do you have just like a minute or two for rapid round fire
Sure.
questions? Okay.
Yeah.
So number one, what's your number one advice for people to improve their quality of life right now?
Learn to ask for help. It's okay.
Love it. Okay. Number two, what is your favorite hobby?
Um, Actually, I would normally say shopping, but it's just, it always was, again, like a the zoning out and retail therapy. But my walking meditations have actually been the really really great.
Love that too. Okay.
Mhm.
And lastly, what is your favorite food to eat?
I have to default to Indian food. I've done all of these different diets. I did, try to do a vegetarian keto, I did vegan, Mediterranean, and so forth. And I think I've finally gotten back, because I've started cooking again myself, that I enjoy the food, because one, it just brings you back to your own childhood memories and like, you know, mom's cooking and so forth. And so I it's I can't beat Indian food for
Yeah.
myself. So
It's like coming full circle and really honoring your roots.
mhm. And trust me, I avoided cooking like the plague because I was like, no, you know, I'd rather go to work than cook, but now I enjoy being in the kitchen. And I think also having that relationship with food in a different way, that it's not a chore that you're cooking versus this is food and this is the nutrients or that you're putting in your body. And so the whole thought process is different. So I think the cooking has become, you know, almost like a therapy in a way
Mm.
that, you know, you're enjoying the cooking. And so I think it's changed my whole thought process. And now I kind of see how my mom always enjoyed being in the kitchen and doing that because that was her way of, you know, showing her love to us, you know, through her food. And I used to be like, I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm not going to be in the kitchen. And here I am. I spent the last 2 days in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, I totally believe that cooking imparts your emotions, and especially if that's an emotion
Mhm.
of love into the food, then you're really doing yourself a service by preparing your food and for
Mhm.
your family, rather
Yeah.
than having it outsourced elsewhere. And, you know, your kitchen could be your place of healing and nourishment.
Mhm. Right.
All right. Well, I again loved the interview. Could you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you directly, learn more about what you do, and just say hi?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram. You can follow my personal page is at Rano Rai. Um, and it has the link to Farm to Table. And then also I have our Sunrise Health page, which has more information and tips on staying healthy. So that at SUNRAIS Health.
Awesome. Well, I'll link to that in the show notes, and I hope you have a beautiful day ahead, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.